I have had back pain since I was about 18. I'm 31 now. I got sick in 2020. My back just completely started to give out, like my SI joints. So it got to the point that I could hardly walk. So my mom and I did some searching and we're like, okay, well, we got to investigate this because this isn't normal. So we started looking for answers, and I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, confirmed with MRI. I didn't have like the genetic factor that they commonly test for. Mm-hmm. So I was diagnosed with that thinking, okay, we have an answer. Well, I continued to get worse to the point that I could hardly walk. I was using mobility aids, like walking sticks and a walker when I was really bad. And I was like, okay, something's wrong. This isn't normal. You shouldn't be declining this fast. And I was so swollen at that point. I was like, okay, time to find somebody else, because I got tested for MS, all sorts of other things, and everything was coming back normal, which normally that's good, but you want to know what's wrong when you don't feel good. So I found a functional medicine doctor who tests for your root causes. So things like mold, Lyme, Bartonella, parasites. And after quite a bit of testing, I found out I have mold, and I've been battling that since 2021. That's when it was confirmed, at least. Lots of detoxing with that. And then eventually we got to testing for Bartonella and Lyme. My Lyme test kind of came back positive, but that's a hard one to test for, especially if it's covered in biofilms, basically, so it's not going to come up. But Bartonella came back pretty positive, and that causes a lot of joint pain, and specifically in my heels. That was one of the first things to go for me. Was I could hardly put weight on my heels, so I'd have to sit a lot. So we went through lots of testing, found out the conditions that I'm dealing with and bacterial infections. In 2022, in the summer, I got sick with COVID. At that time, I was eating the Terry Wahls protocol diet to try to correct all this stuff. But it got to the point after COVID, I could hardly eat. I was in dysbiosis. I would drink my smoothies, which were normally, like, most people can drink a smoothie and keep it down. I couldn't even keep food down at that point, in or out. It was pretty bad. So I had an appointment with my doctor. I'm like, look, I can't even eat right now. I don't know what to do. COVID really messed me up. He's like, okay, well, you have dysbiosis, most likely SIBO. It's time to talk about diet options. He's like, so we can go about this two ways. Either you go on a SIBO diet. I prescribe some medications that your insurance probably won't cover. They're maybe going to work. We don't know. There's a good chance they won't. He said, or you can do carnivore. And I was like, okay, carnivore. I was like, I've heard of it. Tell me what this is. I'm like, from my understanding, you just eat meat. And I've never been one who is successful in doing like really strict diets. So I was like very imitated. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. Intimidated by this. I was like, okay. I said, you're putting a lot of faith in me, telling me to do this strict diet. Because even when I worked out, I was like, you have to have carbs. Like, carbs are life. That's all I knew. He's like, well, you can think about it. And I was like, no, I don't want to deal with the medications. I'm already on like 4 times a day meds. It's another thing to add. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And this was just with the intent to fix my dysbiosis, or correct it, I should say. So I went on it. He's like, you're going to give it 4 weeks and we're going to have another appointment. I said, okay. I did it. It was really hard because I was used to consuming all the sugar, you know, all my fruits and vegetables, and eating rice and bread and all the things I shouldn't really eat. But especially after COVID, I could hardly eat anything. So I started eating bread, which was probably the worst thing I did. And after a month, I got out of the sugar cravings. It took about 4 to 6 weeks to really get off those. And I was like, this isn't so bad. This is really easy, actually. I'm used to having to prep 9 cups of vegetables a day, which is a ton, to I hardly have to plan my meal. So I started to see improvements with my joints, especially my spine. And at my next follow-up, he was like, okay, well, I'm glad your gut's doing better, because all of that resolved within like 4 weeks. I was keeping my food down, obviously, as soon as my body got used to the meat. And my bowels were regulating. I wasn't having any constipation issues, which is pretty common with people that are sick with mold. Yeah, he's like, you're going to continue. Let's just see how you do.
And how long ago has that been now?
Oh, excuse me. That was August. I started Carnivore in August 2022. Mm-hmm. And I've been on it ever since. Through the holidays, I did try to be normal. Bad idea. Bad idea. I've really understood my body now, how much of a difference these foods can make. Like if you go from eating this anti-inflammatory diet to reintroducing things such as corn, like corn tortilla chips, not a good idea. I felt it within an hour. Wow.
That's what I'm impressed that there's a local functional medicine doctor that's out there recommending carnivore. That I'm not even sure who that is. Do you mind sharing what the name of the physician is? Or
yeah, I'm happy to. Dr. Brendan Cochran.
Okay. Well,
he's out of Linwood.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that the message is reaching, into the local area and stuff. That's really neat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you mentioned ankylosing spondylitis, which you mentioned the genetic and usually something called HLA-B27, which is often associated with that. And it's an autoimmune condition. Was that still the working diagnosis throughout this, or was it something else, or was it, you thought it was just, maybe the potential infections with mold or, Lyme disease or something like that was on top of that, or what was the deal with that? And are you still on meds for all this stuff?
Yeah, great question. So I have asked that question because I've heard that a lot. Lyme and Bartonella, they're the great imitators when you have these diseases. He is still on the fence of saying if I have ankylosing spondylitis or not, because I still get some changes with my spine, like my muscles will tense up and my spine gets achy. However, I used to frequently visit this place that I later found out had water damage. So my symptoms were really bad when I was visiting this place. And this is when I was eating carnivore, thinking, that should be helping things with my spine. Well, when I stopped visiting this place, within a week, because I was going there multiple times a week for long hours, within a week, my symptoms drastically reduced. So I had a follow-up with my doctor and I was like, well, this is interesting because I thought this would be just my AS. I'm like, but now I'm starting to wonder if a lot of this has been from mold.